Hello everyone. Today's video is another Q&A video. Some questions about optimizing vitamin D levels, about building bone density using jumping or related activities, and then some thoughts about the best chocolate to consider buying for Halloween, which is coming up right around the corner. As per usual, nothing I'm saying should be construed as medical advice. This is for informational purposes only. If you need medical advice, please talk to your healthcare provider to get that advice. And if at some point you don't mind taking a quick moment to please like, share, subscribe, and or post a quick comment on the video, I'd really appreciate it. So thanks in advance for taking a second to do that. So the first question here is about vitamin D. And it says, I was wondering if vitamin D from cod liver oil gets more absorption than gel vitamin D. I assume that means like gelatin vitamin D capsules or maybe vitamin D drops. Other tips to increase vitamin D are welcomed. Thank you for the question. I'm not aware of the vitamin D in cod liver oil being better absorbed. Cod liver oil is a good source of vitamin A, and my understanding is that vitamin A and vitamin D have a synergy in the body. However, I'm not aware of them enhancing one another's absorption. If anybody has any study references saying that they do, I'd be curious to know about that, so please consider posting in the comment section, but haven't come across anything to that extent. Cod liver oil is a high natural source of vitamin D beyond, sun exposure, catalyzing our own synthesis of vitamin D, but it doesn't have a ton of vitamin D in it. I believe that most vitamin D, or most cod liver oil, one serving, which would be, maybe a teaspoon or a, gel cap or something, would be like around 400 international units if memory serves. So it's really not a ton of vitamin D, but it's a heck of a lot more than you would get from any other, kind of naturally occurring source, to my understanding. So once upon a time when we didn't have, vitamin D, or when the folks of days of old did not have handy dandy vitamin D supplements like we have now in plenty, then cod liver oil was a great strategy because it would help to boost up the levels that folks weren't otherwise getting. Now, folks in the days of yore were probably getting a lot more sun exposure for more of the year. Of course, in the winter months, the sun's only at the right position of the sky to give us enough of those UV rays to actually catalyze vitamin D exposure, and there's different factors to consider, but hopefully we were soaking up a lot more rays during those summer months when the sun was at the right trajectory to get those vitamin D producing frequencies and wavelengths, at the proper concentration. So anyways, cod liver oil, very important once upon a time. Nowadays, quite a low dose vitamin D supplement to my understanding. As far as ways to increase vitamin D. Generally speaking, I find most patients can boost up their vitamin D levels quite effectively just by taking a high enough oral dose of vitamin D. So to the person asking the question, if you're having trouble boosting up your vitamin D levels in some way, feel free to post another comment and let me know about the details, and I can try to give you a more detailed answer around that. But generally, folks are taking, like 1,000 or 2,000 international units a day, and like, oh, my vitamin D level is too low. It's like they usually just need to take more, but it really depends on the individual case. So the next question here is on a video that I was quite excited to post a while ago. It's called A Non-Drug Treatment to Improve Bone Density, in which I talk about these studies that I had learned about. Showing that doing jumping, like just jumping up and down on a sort of semi-hard surface, is associated with improved bone density in like a pretty short period of time. I believe some of the studies were just over 16 weeks, showing some improvement in bone density. So the comment here slash kind of question was, it may sound, it says, it may seem silly, but shouldn't similar positive effects be had from spending time bouncing around on a big space hopper ball? It would be somewhat lower impact than regular jumping because you're seated, but it would seem to cover major muscle exercise, mainly legs and core, foot, ankle, knee, and hip joint flexibility, demanding good balance, raising the heart rate, and getting lymphatic circulation going. How much good stress it puts on bones is questionable, but there's got to be some positive health benefits from doing it rigorously in an actual workout. So thank you for the question. I don't know exactly what a big space hopper ball is, but I have a pretty decent visual image in my mind of what it probably is. I think that, there's likely a lot of health benefits. Everything that you mentioned there, the core strength and, cardio, getting the lymph moving, all that good stuff. I think that the special thing, or the unique thing, or the pivotal key thing with the jumping, on a, fairly hard surface, and if memory serves in the studies, they were using kind of just a very thin carpet that folks were jumping up and down on, basically just jumping as high as the person reasonably could and then landing, and kind of landing like with knees bent, like kind of absorbing the impact. But I think the whole idea is that it's sending this force throughout the skeleton of the body, and I think that's the really key thing. So I think using like the big space hopper ball, which I assume is just kind of like akin to like a stability ball, so to speak, or a yoga ball, or whatever you want to call it, something akin to that. You need the impact. That's the thing that I think is really key. My understanding, that's what differentiates it. It's not so much the lymphatic flow, the cardio, that kind of thing. So that's my understanding of it. Putting on my thinking cap, but could be wrong, but that's my understanding of it, or my best guess. The very last topic here is about best chocolate for Halloween. Halloween is 14 days away. It's October 17th, the day of me recording this. Don't know when I'm going to post it, but shortly, close proximity. And so admittedly, a little bit of a clickbait here. My apologies. Don't mean to pull the wool over the eyes, but leading up to Halloween, Easter, Christmas, I'd like to post a quick little video blurb about just considering buying chocolate. This isn't from a health perspective. It's just more from an ethical perspective. On my podcast, the Optimistic Future podcast, several months ago, I interviewed a woman named Ann Riggs. She has been running for years this website called slavefreechocolate.org. And basically, that website, if I'm hopefully doing it justice here, they basically list companies who source their chocolate from places that likely are the most ethically sourced. All of the major chocolate manufacturers like Nestle, Hershey, like you name it, like anyone who's making your favorite chocolate bar you'd find at the grocery store exit kind of thing, or grocery store checkout rather, they source their chocolate from places where there's really questionable ethics around how they treat their workers, how much they pay, and this, that, and the other thing. And so I can't really do it justice here in the video. I'm not an expert in this topic, but having been on Ann's website years ago, interviewing her earlier this year, she spins a pretty good yarn that some of these gigantic companies, well, all of these gigantic chocolate companies, may not be following the most ethical practices possible. So when you're thinking about what kind of candy to buy, or dessert food, snack food to buy to hand out on Halloween if you participate in Halloween, maybe consider either trying to get something that's from a fair trade chocolate source. Go on her website, slavefreechocolate.org. She has a list of companies that seem to have meet a more ethical standard, or just buy chips instead. Buy none of these things are healthy, unfortunately, but buy hard candies. Just don't buy chocolate. But at the end of the day, we as consumers, we have all of the power in our hands in terms of our buying power. Everybody stops buying Hershey, and suddenly this gigantic multi-billion-dollar corporation goes under. It's really all about where we're actually putting our buying, using our buying power. So again, I don't profess to have all the answers around where the absolute best places to buy chocolate, but I just think it is something that's not necessarily a black and white issue, and maybe we should be thinking about that. I know in our household we tend to just buy chips. I think it's a healthier option than hard candies and gummies and this, that, and the other thing. So we tend to just do that. We don't have to worry about the chocolate debacle. I'm not going to go out and spend hundreds of dollars buying locally crafted, ethically sourced, individually wrapped chocolates for kids just to throw it in their big pile of candy. But we just go the chips route. So just something to think about. And again, slavefreechocolate.org. Please feel free to check out my interview with Ann Riggs, on my Optimistic Future podcast. Learn a little bit more about that. If anybody has any comments or questions on that topic, I'd love to hear about them. I think it's important to talk about sort of our, I would say, social responsibility to know, what we're buying, what the companies that we're buying from are all about. There's a lot of things to do in day-to-day life. We have lots of responsibilities. So, but just something to think about. So hopefully that's taken in the best possible light, and just something to think about. So any questions or comments on that topic or anything else, please post in the comment section below, and I will leave it there for now.